Hello, welcome to today's session. The emphasis in the asanas today is on flank pose, Parsvottanasana. Flank meaning the sides of your body, getting a good stretch, and in particular in this pose, your hamstrings. So we'll do a nice job of pose and then counter pose and then counter pose again. And finish with legs up the wall for our inversion and a breathing exercise that's called square breathing. So for those two, well, especially legs up the wall, I suggest that you have an eye covering, like an eye pillow, or maybe even a soft t-shirt or scarf to put over your eyes. It just helps you relax that much more. And besides that, the normal props that I use, a chair, a belt, a block, a bolster, and maybe a blanket later for warmth. So let's begin. I've got a smallish bolster to sit on. You might sit on a folded blanket or a bigger bolster. And cross-legged or sitting in hero pose, Virasana will do it. So I've got my yoga strap nearby, and I may or may not use that for Gomukhasana eagle pose. So get a nice, comfortable but upright seat, and maybe do a little lean forward so that you can be more towards the front of your sitting bones, and then straightening up all over again. And let's do some shoulder rolls to begin with. And the other direction. And then let's say right arm up and stretch it right up. And since we're going to be doing Parsvottanasana, also called flank pose, see if you can get a little bit more lengthening through your side body, through the sides of your rib cage. Then folding the right arm back, and with the opposite hand holding the elbow. Just going to keep that arm, the bent arm, nice and close in towards the head, and then stretching from your armpit to your elbow tip. Beautiful. Let's do the other side. And left arm. And first that lifting through the side ribs, still breathing and folding. Left arm back. Tuck the elbow in a little nearer to you. And stretch armpit to elbow. Beautiful. With that warm up, now let's move on and do the full pose. So bringing your right arm up again and bending the elbow and bringing your hand to upper part of your back. When I place my hand on my upper spine, I've got all my fingers fanned open, and pressing a little bit stretches my wrist at the same time. And then left arm out to the left side. Let's internally rotate that arm, turn the thumb down, and bring your hand back and nudge it in. This is my stiffer side. I think most of us have that. And I'm going to use the belt there just to link my hands. Seem to be getting tangled up in my belt. And the idea here is to get the hands closer together. And for me, this is a wrist stretch, and that's going to be a handy movement to have in poses later in the session. And then releasing all of that. And left arm up and back. And that arm is internally rotated again, and your palm pressing into your upper spine. Right arm out, roll your shoulder forward, and bring your hands as close as you can together. Always being respectful of your body, inviting it into these different yoga positions. If you reach a limit, then respect that limit. And the elbows stretch in opposite directions. I can link hands on this side. That makes me feel so much better about doing the pose for some reason. And then release your arms, and a really lovely stretch, extending your arms out. Sideways from your shoulders, palms down, and then just for variety, palms up. Imagine you have weights on either hand and you're pushing up against that weight. And then releasing, and extend your legs out. Straight legs here, and fold your legs the opposite way. So if you're sitting in Virasana, then just stay there if that's comfortable for you, or cross-legged the opposite way. Interlock your hands, turn your palms forward, and stretch all the way up. Good. A good self-adjustment here is to keep the bottom of your rib cage, the diaphragm ribs, releasing downward instead of protruding upward and outward. Good. And lowering the hands to chest height. Change the interlock of your hands. Give your knuckles and all of your fingers, especially the middle fingers, a good stretch as you extend the arms overhead. Good. And feel the side body again. And then release, and arms down. And legs straight out in front of you. Good. And let's move on to a little, I call it a vinyasa, movement with the breath. Keep your belt right there, but position yourself on the mat in child's pose. So my version of child's pose is to extend my arms, elbows straight, elbows lifted, and buttocks back towards the heels. If for some reason your knees are tight in this position or tight in the hips, keep the buttocks a little elevated off of your heels. And then from here, and coming upright again, still in the kneeling position, bring your strap in. And this is going to be a really useful adjustment for yourself as we go through the session. And take the strap, one hand each side of it, and bring the belt into the fold at the top of your thighs. Top of your thighs, bottom of your torso. And then as you do your lean out for child's pose again, feel like you can pull your hips back at the same time, and lengthening forward, and kind of like holding yourself firmly back towards the heels as you go forward. Good. Now, register that feeling, file away that feeling, and come back up. And we're going to move through child's pose to dog pose. So child's pose, arms extended. Lift your buttocks off your heels, tuck your toes under, and lift your buttocks up towards the ceiling. Exhale, downward facing dog pose. Back to child's pose. And moving with the breath is all important here. Inhaling, exhaling, downward facing dog pose. Inhaling, exhaling, back to child's pose. See if on each successive movement that you can make the crease at the front of the hips a little deeper. And let's do a few more rounds. Nice deep breathing, extending your breath on both phases of inhalation, exhalation. And if you like to go at a pace, you might move a little bit more quickly. And one more downward facing dog pose. Hold it there and then take a walk forward towards your hands and slowly come up and rolling all the way up to standing. Very good. Let's do a little bit of work to, create movement through a little more of the body. So one thing we like to do is the swings, the arms swing. So you're standing, your feet hip width apart, and allowing the spine to rotate through these arm swinging movements. It'll feel a little bit different if you bring your arms up to shoulder height. So more in the dorsal thoracic. The head rotates. And that's the idea. Good. And then winding that down to a standstill. And just check your footing. So all toes pointing forward. And the weight divided right foot, left foot. And then just with your right arm, make some figure 8 movements out to the side. So these really kind of graceful and beautiful movements. I find I have to watch my figure 8. If I do it and I'm not watching it, then it turns into another kind of shape. And that's right arm. And then let's go left arm. Maybe there's not an exact breathing pattern that fits this, but do be breathing. Good. And then just for interest's sake, what would happen if we do both at the same time? So right arm, left arm in figure 8s. Really lovely movements for your joints, for the elbow joint, for the shoulder joint. Good. And then bringing that to a standstill. Take right foot forward and left foot back. When you've done that, we're going to use this stance for one of the standing poses a little bit later. So let's get it from the beginning. Imagine that you're standing on rails, and the rails are the width of your hips. So right foot, left foot, each on its respective rails, and that gives you space at the tops of your thighs. And then from there, bring your arms out wide from your shoulders, big generous gesture of opening out. And then we're going to turn towards the front leg. So turning towards the right leg, sort of a cross-body movement that turns your waist. And then just back to center. So you're facing my way again. And again, with the breath, exhale and rotate. Inhale back to center, facing forward, and exhale to that right side. See if you can expand the arms a little bit more. Good. And then coming back to center and lowering the arms, change your footing, and left foot forward, right foot back. Keep that nice healthy distance between the tops of the thighs, and arms out to the side again. Good. So this is a little test for your balance. It's not too challenging, I hope. And turning towards the left side, towards the left leg, back to center. With the breath, turning, rotating, and back to center. And third time, all the way around, looking back maybe towards your left arm, and back to center. And then release your arms down and take a bent leg position, step forward, and nicely done. Let's, you've done some really lovely warm-ups for the sequence that we're doing. But before we go on too much further, let's work on balance. So I seem to do better when I'm standing on this flooring, the carpet, rather than my mat. So find your position one way or another, and we'll do tandem. So that's right foot forward, and left foot tucks in behind the right foot. So now your feet are on one of those rails, and we're going to take a little walk forward. So it works better for me if I have my arms out to the side, kind of like the tightrope walker in his pole. And then you have a go and take a few steps back. And forward again, maybe 3 or 4 steps, not too far. Good. And hopefully your balance is getting a little better as you go along. This could be an everyday pose. It's not very demanding, and you could even do it a few times a day. We all need to be strong in our sense of balance. All right, and then last one, forward. I hope it's getting easier. It's quite challenging to be talking and doing this at the same time. And then fine, drop your arms and take up your chair. So I've got my chair very near to the wall. And I'm going to face to the seat of the chair. And I'm about, I don't know, half a meter away from it. And we'll start working on the flank pose, Parsvatanasana. So right foot forward, left foot back, facing your hips exactly towards the chair. And then pause for a moment and remind yourself of the folding at the hip fold. So at the crease of your hips, this is called flexion of the hips, and bringing your trunk forward as the crease of your hips recedes. Can you feel that? That's where I find the hamstring work. If that's uncomfortable for you, bend your front knee. And then let's go straight into the pose, and you're going to bring your hands onto the seat of the chair. So there's that fold in the crease of the hips. Extend the arms forward. And what's nice about supporting yourself with your hands onto the chair, I find this to be so, is that my pose feels lighter than if I were bent all the way forward onto the front leg. So press your hands into the chair, then pump up your chest a little bit. Keep the fold at the top of your thighs deep. And from here then, lengthen the front of your body. And that's from the fold at the top of your thighs and all the way to your shoulders. And feel the lengthening out away from your pelvis. Beautiful. And then bend that front knee fractionally and inhale and come up and hands to your hips. And in one stable movement, you're going to step left foot to right and right foot back. Once positioned, let's do a little tidy up. So feel when you go forward this time, as much as possible the legs stay straight, unless there's a discomfort in the hamstrings, bend the front knee. And folding, and forward fold, and the hips are still square. And when your hands come down, instead of going into a forward bend any further, press your hands, lift up your chest, lengthen your chest away from your hips away from your chest. Good. Feel your weight still on both feet so that your leg muscles are working. And then press into that left foot, bend your knee a fraction, and inhale, and come all the way up. Step right foot to left, one smooth movement, swift movement. Step left foot back. While we're here, it would be remiss, I think, to do a rotation in Parvita Trikonasana, because we're all set up so well, and we did a warm-up for this in any case. Bring your right hand onto your right hip and extend your left arm up towards the ceiling. So right foot forward, left foot back. The weight's on the inside of your right foot and the outside of your left foot. Then go halfway down in a forward bend towards the seat of the chair. Place your left hand onto the seat of the chair and slide it across towards the right side. Good. As you've done that, now you're really well set up to rotate into a twisting movement and turn your chest to the right side. Turn that left shoulder blade a little bit more. Bring your right shoulder back. Maybe you're looking up at the ceiling. And if it feels quite all right for you to do this, and you can just test it, then extend up your right arm. Uncomfortable in your shoulder, keep your right hand on your right hip. Good. Let's come out of this with control. Right hand, right hip. Look at your left hand onto the chair. Bend your front knee a fraction. Inhale and come up. And step left foot to right. And right foot back. We're not in a hurry here, so without rushing forward, feel your 2 feet, the footprints, left foot, right foot, and then take a little bow forward. Extend your right arm out in front of you. Lengthen that right side of your body. That's really helpful to complete the pose. Right hand down. Slide it across so it's in front of the left leg, and then turn your torso. Keep turning until that left shoulder and left elbow is coming back a little bit more. And then have a go and extend up the left arm. Good. Looking down, look at your right hand. Bend your front knee a little bit. Left hand, left hip. Push off. Inhale and come up. And step all the way up to the chair. Beautiful. And for the time being, we'll leave that and take a position at the wall. With 2 hands onto the wall. I'm going to place my hands a little bit higher than hip level, sort of in between hips and shoulders, opening up the hands and then stepping back into right angle pose. So a little practice in for your kinesthetic sense. Can you feel your back body? And as much as possible in a straight line. So a few adjustments, self-adjustments. Keep the diaphragm ribs contained, so a little lifted. And feel the organs of the abdomen and the lower torso lifting up towards the back body. You don't have to tense to do that, but just working against gravity to lift those internal organs to the support of the spinal column, away from the floor and towards the back body. And then let's take a walk in. Good. And give the hands a shake, the wrists a shake, elbows and shoulders. Let's go again for another wall stretch. Steps right foot forward and left foot back. And we're positioned for the goal pose for today, Parsvottanasana. And we'll use the wall for support. So bending over the front leg, deep hip crease at the front of the right leg, and then 2 hands onto the wall. So instead of having my elbows bent like this, I'm going to take a little step back so I can straighten my arms and then work towards straightening the legs. And we're in hamstring territory now. So at this point, create a 2-way stretch and project the crown of the head towards the wall. the head lengthening away from the shoulders, the neck long, and you've still got that containment of the internal organs. Good. And then bend the front knee just a little bit. Inhale and push away from the wall. Step left foot to right. And second side. All right. When you've got your right foot back, then there's weight to bear on it. Feel what happens when you press into your right footprint. The thigh muscles switch on. We want that to happen. Front leg, let's deepen the crease at the top of the hip and reach right out and place your hands. They're parallel and onto the wall and pushing away. And a very helpful adjustment here is to lift the tailbone slightly. So if you're rounding in your lower back especially, lift your coccyx, the base of your spine. Good two-way stretch. The head is extending forward. The tail is moving away from the head. And then bend the front knee. Take a generous step in, right foot to left. And we've worked well there. And now we can complete the pose. And I'm on my mat. And right foot forward, left foot back. Good. And let's take a moment and just take pause to relax the shoulders. Shoulders relaxed. And then feel this connection of the diaphragm ribs with the abdomen. And let's just start a little forward bend, a little forward fold, until you can bring your hands down onto your knee or your shin bone. And take a moment and to adjust the hips so that they're square and level. Draw the right hip back and bring the left hip forward. And then in your forward fold, hang on to your leg hold, wherever you're holding along the leg. Then pump up your chest, lengthen the breastplate forward, and even as you move the buttocks back. And a strong pressure through your right foot. And then for the last part, you could let it go and release your head down and take the complete flexion of your spine, including your neck. Go into this as deeply as you want at the moment, or hold back to whatever extent your body needs you to. Now, to release from the pose, press into your front foot, and bring your hands back along your legs, or your hands to your hips. Bend your front knee a little bit. Inhale, come all the way up to standing, and step left foot to right. Right foot back. Good. Making a good beginning. Your hips facing squarely forward. And then from there, bring your arms up, palms facing forward too, and take a forward bend. So initially just holding your leg so that you can get that sense of lightness at the front of the body. So from your hip fold to your shoulders, lengthening out. And only in the last part, taking a complete flexion, including the neck, crown of the head pointing downward. Beautiful. And then push into the left foot, bend the front knee a little bit, bring your hands onto your hips or onto the leg, and inhale and come all the way up. Step right foot to left. Good. I don't know if I actually said that was the full extent of the pose, but there is one more part, and we can take it with the arm movement added. So when we do this pose, We can adjust the arms behind us to be supporting the lower back and not so strong on the wrist movement. So the arms are folded and the forearms support at the back ribs. Or we can bring the arms all the way back behind us and do reverse prayer pose. My wrists are a little bit stiff, so I won't bring my hands all the way together. You can start by bringing the middle fingers together and see if you can bring the tips of the fingers together fully. And then one of those positions for your arms, either elbows bent and holding at the back of your rib cage, or hands in reverse prayer position. Right foot forward, left foot back. Good. And now that you're bound, be very careful about your balance. Feel the right footprint, the left footprint, and then begin to come into your forward fold over the front leg. So we're turning a little bit towards the right leg as we come forward, and eventually downward. Feel once again the internal organs, the inner organs lifting up towards the spine. And then press your front foot, come all the way up, step left foot to right, and right foot back. If your wrists need a break, then it's fine just to have your hands on your hips too. Inhale, leaning back into the back leg, look up. Exhale, let's complete to this final stage of the pose on the left leg and turning towards the left leg a little bit. Breathing. And left foot pressing down, the knee bends slightly. Inhale and rolling all the way up to standing. And right foot to left. And then it's going to feel mighty fine to extend the arms out and extend the wrists. And palms upwards. Imagine that you've got very heavy platters, one on each hand. Push up against the weight of them. Feel the triceps lift up into the arm bones. Beautiful. And then let that all go and releasing arms down. What you've done in that sequence of Parsvottanasana is quite a lot of hip flexion and bending forward from the tops of the thighs. If we wanted to counterpose what you did, then we would do hip extensions. So we know that these front hip bones, if we extend them, bring your hands onto your upper buttocks, the flat of your hands onto your upper buttocks, and then supporting your lower back like this, lift your chest, maybe lift your chin, look up, leaning back slightly, feel the shoulder blades come in nearer to the spine, and you're in a hip extension, the front of the hips extending, the whole spine extending backwards. So we can do that movement in a very lovely way in the back bend, the bridge pose. So take a lying down position on your mat, on your back. Take up your belt. Once lying down, have your legs bent and your feet on the floor near to your buttocks. And then I'm going to bind the belt. So I finish up with it at the width of my hips. So feet are hip width apart. And I'll take the strap just above my knees. So it shouldn't be so tight that the knees are touching. They have to be apart, but not too far apart. So once you've got that all set up, then just have a few practices at pressing out against the restriction of the belt. As you do that, there's a tendency to roll onto the little toe side of your foot. So release the pressure against the belt and set yourself up so you have more pressure on the inside of your feet. Feel your big toe base, your inside heel, and then push out against the resistance of the belt. So feel where I'm getting it is in the outer hip muscles, the glute medius. All right, have enough room behind you so you're not restricted, and we'll do some overhead stretching of your arms. So press your feet on the inside, press out against the belt, and you tuck under at that point, and then tuck under and lift. Lift your buttocks well off the floor, and come up to the point where you do feel the stretch at the frontal hip bones, the iliac crests. And then roll down, nice and easy does it, and all the way down to your tail. Let's do this with the arm movement this time. And on the inhalation, lift and extend the arms overhead at the same time as you lift your pelvis. Keep the tension on the belt, pushing out. Press on the inside of your feet. And then the next time that you come down, lower your arms as well. And articulating your spine all the way down to your tailbone. Good. Take a moment and rest there. And let's do one more of those. That was so lovely. Inhale and come up. And the arms are coming up overhead in that generous opening for the upper part of your chest. And then coming back down and all the way down. All right, hold it there. Take a breath or two. And then when you lift into your little back bend, this time keep your arms by your side. And at the same time as you press your feet, press out against the belt and start to come up, start to turn your arms out, if you haven't done that, so that your arms are externally rotated and including the arm bones right up onto the shoulder joint. And lifting up and pressing against the belt. And it seems like there's an awful lot going on, but we would just want to open the upper part of your chest a little bit more. And then come all the way down. And that's your hip stretch, your chest opening, and releasing back to the floor. Beautiful. Take your belt off. And pause right there. We're going to come back to using the chair for a bridge pose. And for safety's sake, you want the chair right up against the wall. So I'll set mine up. And once you've got that set up, then lie down in front of the chair onto your back and bring your lower legs up onto the chair. Sometimes we do this pose and we call it chair shavasana, but we're not really at that point yet, so we're going to do a little bit more work in back bending. So if you wriggle forward towards the chair so your buttocks are very close to the chair. You can probably hold the chair legs. Get a firm grip onto the front chair legs and draw your shoulders down, the tips of your shoulders down, and your shoulder blades in towards the center of your spine. So that feels really nice for me because I can tend to be stiff in my upper part of my back. So that movement to break down some of that stiffness. All right, and then you could stay close to the chair, or it might be more helpful for you to move back slightly. You can release from the adjustment you did with the hands on the chair legs. And then bend your legs in closer to you and see if you can lift up your hips, pressing into your heels or the soles of your feet. And I just find it really helpful to take the next step, actual step forward, and have the arches of my feet on the edge of the chair. And then from there, I can leverage using the strength of my legs to lift up a little bit more. And in particular, those hamstrings that got stretched, we're contracting them now. So the hamstrings pressing in to the thigh bones, and that helps us lift up. Good. Let's come all the way down again. And rest the lower legs onto the chair. Consolidate. Take a breath or two there. And then let's repeat what we've done and hooking the feet at the front seat of the chair or pressing the heels into the chair to be able to lift up into the back bend. I've placed my hands onto the outside of my hips just as a reminder to use these outer hip muscles to help lift up the glute med muscles. Imagine the outer hips a little higher than the pubic bone. And then rolling all the way down in that movement we call articulating the spine, and releasing the legs to support again. And the third time that we'll do this, so prepare to lift up again. Arms pressed down, palms pressed down to help you push off. And coming up, look at your legs and move the front of your thighs, the quadriceps, from your hips to your knees outwards. And the more that you do that, and imagine that you've got the belt to push out against as well. The more that you do that, the more that you'll be able to stretch the frontal hips. Keep your front neck relaxed, so it's chin down slightly. And then coming all the way down to a relaxed and stable position, buttocks down, legs up onto the chair. And take several breaths there. So good work. We've counterposed hamstrings, and now we'll just do a neutralizing pose in floor twisting. So take a position away from your chair. Put your chair off to the side. And lying on your back, legs bent and feet on the floor near to your buttocks. Bend one knee into your chest, second knee in. Rock a little bit on your back waist, side to side. And then when you replace your feet on the floor, take your arms out wide to the side, out from your shoulders, and then bend the knees into your chest. And the simplest of twists, knees to the right side in the bent leg position. Keep the left shoulder down. Bring the thighs across the body to the left side. These movements lend themselves so neatly to the breathing cycles. So we say exhale to the side, inhale to the center. Keep the leg work strong by the knees staying together, the feet staying together, and the opposite shoulder down. So you have to use your core muscles to create that cross stretch, that cross twist. And the next time you've gone to the left, come back to center. Bring your feet down to the floor. And we'll work with windscreen wiper twist. Step your feet out as wide as the mat. And let your knees drop to the right side. Hold it there for a moment. And this is another way of doing a kind of flank stretch in a twist. So feel that lengthening through the left side body when you take your knees to the right side. And then let's balance that out. And knees drop to the left, and you're opening up through the right side body, maybe rotating your head at the same time. Good. Let's go again to the right side. And we're going to exaggerate that lengthening through the side body by bringing the left arm overhead and reach that left arm out in a big stretch away from the left leg, left knee away from your left arm. Good. And then fold that leg or bring that leg up. Fold your left arm down. Extend your right arm overhead. Good. How much length can you create there? It's a really lovely, I hope it's a lovely for you, quadricep stretch too. And then folding that leg back in. Let's go one more round. And as you take your knees to the right side and extend the left arm overhead, maybe you can roll off the left side onto your right shoulder, onto your right arm more, and then back to center. And switch your arms, switch directions to the left side. Roll onto your right arm and your, left arm and your left shoulder. And one more round. I found that so lovely. I want to do it one more time. To each side. And having done that and coming back to center and bringing the position to center. So you're lying in a straight line, pubis, breastbone, and head all in that line. Bend your knees into your chest again. And let's finish this little floor sequence. Bend your knees into your chest. Exhale. Inhale. Move your knees away. Inhaling, straightening your arms. Exhale in. Inhale out. See if you can make the two phases of the breath a little bit deeper. Maybe even using audible breathing, the Ujjayi breathing. Create a little bit more challenge for yourself. When you bring your knees in, move your sitting bones towards the floor. Knees away and straight arms. And just one more, thighs towards your ribs. And feet back to the floor. And now we're going to take legs up the wall for our inversion. You might want to do that with your hips elevated onto a bolster. You might prefer just to have your buttocks flat next to the wall, and you find your own way with that. And this is where an eye covering will go really well. So I'm going to use this kind of bigger bolster and grab my eye pillow and a belt. So this is in the category of a restorative pose. When we do restorative poses, we need to be completely relaxed. And that might include using a blanket to stay warm, or a few extra bits of clothing. So for your own comfort, you're warm. The eye covering, even if it's just a t-shirt that you have nearby or a jumper to put over your eyes, creates a sense of darkness. So I've got my strap around the thighs just above my knees. And that means if I keep the legs together in that fashion, that I don't have to use any leg muscles to do that. And I can let go of the legs completely. That's important because in this pose, you want the legs to be draining of any fluids. And especially when you've done work with the hamstrings, there's still a hamstring stretch in this, but it's supported. You can even have the knees a little bit bent. We'll stay for about 5 minutes in legs up the wall, and I'll just talk you through a little bit of the benefits of this pose. So you know this pose probably very well from experience. But in a more scientific way of looking at what happens over the time that you're in the pose, the sympathetic nervous system quiets down. That's the one that has us rushing about, sometimes doing multitasking, and just generally stressed. And the longer that you stay, then the parasympathetic nervous system is stimulated, and that leads to complete rest, a chance for you to let go. So another element that will help a deeper state of relaxation is your breath. Always your breath. So notice your breathing pattern at the moment. And if you're happy to and you're willing to, deepen the inhalation and the exhalation somewhat. And especially allowing for the exhalation to be even a little bit longer than the inhalation. And we intuit that. The exhalation a little longer. Creates a deeper sense of surrender. Allow your eyes to relax on each successive exhalation. And even though the eyes may be covered, it's still possible to let the eyes widen and drop back a little bit more. And for the remaining time of legs up the wall, Viparita Karani, I'll just be quiet for the next 2 minutes. Just let yourself fall back into kind of pool of silence. And we're just going to start the process of resurfacing. And first of all, if you've had the belt on, removing the belt. And then bending the legs down towards you. Instead of rolling to the side, not in a hurry to come out of this, we're just going to slide back off the bolster if you've had one there. And to the point where you can have the legs folded in Baddha Konasana, just knees out to the side. If that's strong for you in the groins, then you could be in cross-legged position. Whatever allows the legs to relax. So take a few more breaths in the reclining position. And in a moment we'll come up for some breathing exercise. And first, bending your legs up, rolling onto the side, and help yourself come up to an upright position. And then have a seat on a support of some kind. In cross-legged position. And then do the adjustment that you did early on when you were first seated, and lean forward as the trunk comes over the legs. Then the buttocks move back a little bit so that when you sit upright and straight again, you're positioned where you're best supported on the sitting bones. The breathing exercise is called square breathing or box breathing sometimes. And it's a continuation of what you were doing in legs up the wall, is a deeper breathing pattern on the inhalation and the exhalation. So let's just, maybe with your eyes closed so you can better go within, take several breaths where the inhalation and the exhalation is deep and smooth. So find that pattern for yourself. And then take note of the length of the inhalation and the exhalation. And we'll match the two phases of the breath. So I'll say my breathing pattern at the moment is a 4 count. Inhalation for 4. Exhalation for 4. And taking several rounds of breathing in that pattern. See if that's still suitable for you, or you want to increase the breath rhythm or decrease it. And in box breathing, the inhalation for whatever count you've set is followed by a retained breath before you exhale for your count, and then a retained exhalation until you're ready to go again. So I'll call these first several rounds of breathing to my pattern, and you can superimpose yours. Inhaling for 4, retaining the inhalation for a 4 count. That's not breathing. Exhaling for 4, retaining the exhalation for a 4 count, and then beginning the next round, inhaling for 4, the held breath for 4, exhaling for 4, holding the breath for a 4 count, and beginning again. Let's do 5 rounds like this. You can count your rounds on one hand and begin in your own time. Keep your face relaxed and especially your eyes. When you've finished, and don't rush yourself, bring your hands up and place them center chest in front of your breastbone. And feel the contact of your hands. Open the spacing between the fingers a little bit. Rest your thumb against your breastplate as a reminder to lift and open in that area in the heart center. Lift your elbows a little bit too, so the sides of your lungs are lifted. And then finally, incline your head towards your hands, even as you elevate your heart. Feel your own energy, what you fund through doing the yoga practice, your own goodness, your own kindness, your own loving heart. And then extend that out to all of us, all sentient beings. Namaste. Thank you.